You better sing Amazing Grace, how sweet the song that saved a wretch like me. You better start shouting and say, God, I thank you for manna. I thank you for what is it. I thank you for this lousy marriage. I thank you, God, for these unruly children. I thank you, God, for my bills. I thank you for my burdens. I thank you, God. I thank you now. Your greatest test will come in the wilderness where it's boring. And this is where you'll fall apart. And the 10th chapter of 1 Corinthians tells us some sins they had: murmuring, complaining, turning and saying this isn't God's will and this isn't God's way. And I rebuke everything that stands up in this moment, and you better not get too close, God, either. I'm sick and tired of the whole thing. That devil's crowd gets more than I get. You better stop in that moment, because God is angry when we turn away from faith. We've got to believe God in the boring place. What did they do when they got boring? They lusted for what they couldn't get. Now, there's no reason for you to want what you can't have. Decide what you can have, what God is giving on the menu that day, and then settle for what that day has on the menu. They lusted for what they couldn't get, no way, no how. They ruined the day because they wanted something that wasn't possible. You got to stop and you got to say, God, I'm going to quit this thing of saying I want what I can't get. I want what somebody else has. I want something that belongs to another person. Just give me my portion. And if it's manna, I'll thank you for it. I'll praise you for it. I'll rejoice. There's a terrible snare going through life, wanting what you can't get. When I was just a youngster, times change. I was reading a book on pastors, and it said that the way they ought to pay a pastor is give him $35 a week and let him get a little bit more in a percentage. $35, you can't even hardly buy much more than a couple pairs of socks with that anymore. Times change. And when we go through times, we have to realize that things change in the whole process. And we have to recognize in this moment, God, I'm believing that my chance of blessing is going to come, but I've got to enjoy the moment that I'm in. I can't go through life wishing I had tomorrow's blessing. If it's not going to come till tomorrow, let me enjoy today. And so my parents started giving us allowance, and they gave us 35 cents. And when I got 35 cents, I didn't want what I could get for 35 cents anymore. I went down to see what I could get for $1. All of a sudden, if I just had more, I could get this. And if I didn't have anything, I'd be satisfied with anything. Buy us an ice cream cone. I don't care anything. Just something. But when I had something that didn't bring satisfaction, it only caused me to want something that I didn't have. We are a wanting creation. We are a wanting people. This is nature. This is natural. We wouldn't live if we weren't people who want something. But we've got to turn our wants over to Christ and begin to rejoice in this hour that though there are boring places, if God is my friend, this is not a boring moment, it's solitude. If God is my friend, this is a moment of restoration. If God is in my moment, I can thank God for what I have, because all things work together for good to those that love God, that are called according to His purpose. You will never be satisfied with what you have. Have you ever seen anybody who said we got a raise and now all of our financial problems are taken care of? Have you ever heard a family who said, my wife went to work and now we have no more difficulties? No, and you never will. Because this wanting within us, this desire within us always stretches and it reaches out. And so if God cannot meet my need right here, if I cannot find what solves the problem of loneliness, what solves the problem of emptiness, what solves the problem of being in solitude, if I can't find blessing in that, there is no blessing that comes. A billionaire was asked, how much money does it take to be satisfied? A sheepish grin on his face, he said, a little bit more. A little bit more. I heard about Ayatollah, what's his name? Chrysler guy. Lee Iacocca. He was in the newspaper starting some new businesses so he could make some more money. I think, what for, man? What are you going to do with it? What are you going to do? Just add it up? Where are you going to place it? But there's something inside of man that's not satisfied. And if I get more of this, somebody will notice me. If somebody sees that I've got this gift, they're going to recognize me. If I'm over here, I'm going to be seen. But there is no love that comes into our spirit except it's a love of God that touches us. Everything else is going to fail us. We have to come to where Jesus got his love, and he got his love from the Father. And he said, the Father loves me and he has never left me alone. I am not alone, and I please him in everything I do. I do all that I can to please him. And he had joy and peace on the way to the cross, on the emptiness of knowing that men are fickle, looking around about and wondering what was going to happen to the church when it was left to human agencies. In that moment, there was peace like a river because God was his friend. You need God to be your friend. Because every relationship has its quirks. Everyone. I think about women. It must be kind of disappointing for women. Men are emotional. I'm talking about in marriage. Men have appetites. But once a man gets what he wants, it's like a light flipped, you know. He's ready to snore in a second and a half. And sometimes he'll be nice and he'll talk. But I got news for you. He doesn't want to talk. He's just being nice. And there's a lot of people in life that are just being nice. The fact of the matter is that only God can be your real friend. Shirley and I, after we got married, we had known a couple in the church that we were attending, and we happened to move just feet away from them, just across a little bit of yard. And we enjoyed them as friends. We'd go over their house at night, and we enjoyed it. We'd stay late, we'd talk, we'd play games. We had a great relationship. These were our friends. We enjoyed being there. We could be there 5-6 nights a week. Till one evening they said, I don't know how to tell you this, George and Shirley, but we can't handle this. That's embarrassing, believe me. Said, man, you're killing us. We got to get some sleep. Felt so embarrassed. Why? Because we thought that there was an equality in the relationship. I want to tell you there is no equality in a relationship. If you think there is, you're going to be disappointed. You're deceived. There is no equality. Somebody wants to hug more than somebody else. Somebody wants to talk more than somebody else. And in the middle of the whole thing, you think you got the other half of yourself. And if it's not for God's grace, one day you'll see him walk down the street, have his arms around somebody else, and you'll think, what in the world went wrong? I tell you what went wrong. You looked at the wrong place for satisfaction. It's got to start with God. It's got to end with God. He's the only one who wants you to come never have peace outside of Christ. But what I just said is a cliche if you don't make it something else, because everybody says that. But you will never have peace except your greatest ambition is pleasing God. Pleasing Him. As soon as I say that, something flips in my mind, and I'm sure maybe in some of yours too. That sounds like work. That sounds like work. How in the world are you going to please God? If you've ever tried to please a human being, suppose you're married here, and I won't keep you too long. That's my opinion, but if you start trying to please your wife, do you know what's going to happen? She's going to have you painting the bedroom. She's going to have you painting the garage, cleaning out the basement. She's going to have you go with her shopping. You don't know what you're in for if you start wanting to please her. That could be dangerous. And we carry that over into the thought of a perfect God. Man, if I tried to please Him, He's already talking to me about tithing. Might have to start coming out to Sunday night services. Man, I better just leave it the way it is. Let me know when you're really ticked off, God, and I'll stay 2 feet this side of that. And I'll get my excuses, and I'll say, Lord, I'm working too much overtime. Lord, look my wife is too hard to get along with. Here's my excuses. He doesn't want excuses, even if they're valid. He wants your desire to please Him. And when that comes forth, what a friend we have in Jesus. Here comes healing. Here comes deliverance. Here comes peace. Here comes joy. Here comes financial benefit. Here comes a blessing of the Lord. I want to tell you, it works when you let Him be your friend. You won't be alone. He'll be there. And what a God we have to have Him to be the one who's with us. It brings joy. Let's wrap this up a little bit here. What are we talking about? We're talking about your wilderness, your boredom. Nothing is turning out exactly the way you thought. That goes for spiritual things as well as material things, friendships, whatever. It just doesn't turn out the way that we thought. God just doesn't tell us how long it's going to take to get to the promised land. Small detail. He tells us all about the land of promise. And we say, let's get out of this lousy Egypt. Let's get over to the promised land. I'm ready. Let's pack. Let's go. Forget it. We won't even have to pack. God will meet our need. But they were in the wilderness. And you know, God was able to bring out not only them, but He was able to bring out a mixed multitude. I mean, there were some real hypocrites that went with them. There were some real weird people that went with them. There were some strange people that went with them. They made it through the river. They made it out of Egypt. But they couldn't make it through the boredom. I said they couldn't make it through the boredom. They fell a-lusting. They started weeping. I can't handle this boredom, this depression. And there's no medication but a relationship with Jesus that will take care of boredom. There's a woman here today, you are a Christian. You qualify on every point as far as church relationships. But you are fed up with your husband and you're wondering, how in the world am I going to get away from this dog? He hasn't failed you. You don't even say he's failed you, but you say,